I'm delighted to present our next honoree, Ben Rhodes, a man who crafts the policies and speeches, his first big speech being the President's Cairo address, used by the President of the United States. He has also helped create initiatives under this administration to empower young leaders around the world to build a strong civil society. And perhaps his most historic achievement, alongside the President, was leading the secret negotiations to normalize relations with Cuba. Ben has spoken boldly for the rights of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, an issue that he has directly pressed Burmese leadership on and will hopefully continue to do so in light of recent developments. And here in the United States, he's been on the front lines of responding to anti-Muslim rhetoric and has publicly rejected the narrative that violent extremists abroad use, as well as the political extremists here at home use, that the West is at war with Islam. Part of his engagement has been reaching out to communities to hear our stories and share our experiences through the President's speeches. An example of that was when he shared the experiences of American Muslims in both the President's final State of the Union and his first mosque visit. And whether or not we always agree on policies, and in spite of detractors who do not want any engagement with American Muslims, Ben has been present and highlighted our perspectives on issues. So tonight, we recognize Ben Rhodes for his dedication to public service and engagement with American Muslim communities. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for this award. I'll just make a few brief comments here. First of all, I've benefited from the counsel of many people in this room. I also have, in the 7 years that I've been in this job, interestingly enough, each of the 3 people who've sat right outside my office and served as my closest advisors have been Muslim American women. Including Ramana Ahmed, who's here tonight. Not because they were Muslim American women, but because they were the best qualified people to perform that job. At the same time, I've seen what they've had to experience. I've had to worry about whether Ramana would be harassed on the metro on the way home when the metro works. Because she chooses to wear a hijab. Here we are sitting in the White House. Ramana works directly under the Oval Office of the United States and has to worry about how people look at her, what they might say to her on the metro ride home. I've had some tough days in my job. The last few have not been great. But, you know, it's nothing compared to what I've heard from some of you. When I have to sit and listen to people who tell me that their kids are afraid to go to school because they might be bullied for who they are, kids who've grown up not sure if they had a place in the United States of America because of their religion, that's tough. And it's not acceptable. And we have a lot to celebrate in the progress that's been made and the work that groups like MPAC have done to bring a voice to this community. But I don't like the fact that that's happening in America in 2016. Put aside the rhetoric of presidential campaigns, that should not be happening in any of our communities. But the good news is that increasingly I see not just the Muslim American community, but people who care about the same values as many people in this room stand up and say that that's not okay. And it makes a difference. We've taken our lumps, but one of the things that I'll leave this job proudest of is that for 8 years we will never have used language to suggest that America is at war with Islam. when people ask me why we can't say we're at war with radical Islam or this adjective referred to Islam, I think that the answer can be seen in the policy proposals that emanate from that type of rhetoric that are on display today. Because if you give in to that type of narrative, if you use types of language that alienate entire populations, that's the path where that leads. And that's not a political point-scoring exercise in Washington. That's not something to be debated on television talk shows. That's a kid in a school in Baltimore who doesn't know that she can fit in with her classmates. That's not what's best about America. What's best about America are the lessons I've learned from many people in this room. Getting to know and work with and hear from and be argued with and disagreed with by many people in this room and in your community has made me a better American. It's made me understand more about what it means to be an American. Because that's what the United States of America should be all about. That we value and benefit from the diversity of faith and ethnic groups and political beliefs of all those who are around us. And these aren't small issues, these aren't side issues, these are the issues that should motivate us to come to work every day, to be better citizens every day, to get to know our neighbors better every day. Not because it's some type of, do-good exercise. It makes us better people and better citizens. It enriches our own lives. Your life is richer if you have a better understanding of the different faiths and beliefs and concerns of your neighbors. And I think that that is what MPAC has helped to foster. It's not just about putting out statements, as important as it is, condemning extremism or attacks. It's lifting up the enormous contributions and values of the Muslim American community and what that brings to the table and how that makes a better America. And I can tell you that the president feels this very deeply. He had a speech that we wrote for him when he went to that mosque, but every now and then he goes off script, and it's usually his best stuff. And I can tell you that he was speaking from the heart. I can also tell you he was speaking from the heart when he said to me personally, when we were in Malaysia and went to a refugee center and met with kids, most of whom were Rohingya Muslims. These were wonderful kids. I have an 18-month-old daughter. These kids were maybe a year or two older than her. They were doing the same thing that she would do at daycare. And they had no home. And they're people who don't want to let any refugees into our country. And he said to me, that kid is our kid. That kid could be your daughter or my daughter. That's what we have to keep our minds on. And again, that's why it's worth doing the work that we do. So I just want to close by saying thank you for everything you've done to broaden my horizon, to make me better at my job, to make me a better American. And the last thing I want to say is I want to encourage everybody, particularly the young people in this room, to get into public service, to get your voice not just in the room, but in the corridors of power, to help shape the future of where these debates are headed in Congress and the executive branch and state and local governments. Because it's going to make an extraordinary difference. Because the one thing I do know is that the more people get to hear and experience that voice, the more they will recognize not just our common humanity, but our common values as Americans. So thank you very much for this award. Thank you for everything that you do. I really appreciate all the work we've done together. And for the 8 or 9 months remaining, I look forward to continuing that work, but I also know that I can tell you that I'll be working on these things as long as I am doing anything when I leave here. Thank you.